Welcome to the Snook and Game Fish Foundation Conservation Report. This week we have Captain Brett with us. We're going to be talking about the swordfish permits that they're trying to get for long lining.
That's right. I thought we would, there's a little bit of history behind this that's recent, and then I thought maybe we could talk just a little bit about long lining in general and why it causes people so much fear. And we can talk a little bit about this particular permit, this exempted fishing permit, what that actually means, and then maybe some alternative ideas that we could accomplish the goals that they said they were getting without allowing long lining in our waters, which I think would make everybody happy. So I think very first, I was researching this and I learned some things about the history of Atlantic swordfish that was interesting to me. The North Atlantic and the South Atlantic sword fishery, and the ones that we have right here, we have a nursery right off of Florida. And that's the area that we're really concerned about. It's closed off to fishing. Long lining, they started long lining for swordfish commercially. It's only been since the 60s.
Right.
It hasn't been that long. And the average swordfish that was sold commercially at that point was about 250 pounds. When it got to its worst in the late 90s and they said we got to do something about it, the average swordfish sold was 90 pounds. That's important to kind of put in context for a couple reasons. One, if you go back another 100 years, when they first started kind of keeping track of these things, in the 1860s, it was very informal, it was articles written, the average swordfish landed was 400 to 500 pounds.
Wow.
So we've come down quite a bit,
yeah.
Right? But even if you went from that 250 level to where they were when it was at its worst, and it is coming back up, it has gotten a lot better, an average female swordfish can live to be over 2,000 pounds, 2,200 pounds. Males are a lot smaller, about 220 pounds is the biggest they get. And males mature pretty quickly, 3 years, when they're at about 72 pounds. Females don't mature for about 5 years until they're 150 pounds.
Right.
So think about that. The females, if they're not matured until they're 150 pounds, and the longliners are taking them out when they're an average of 90 pounds, we got a problem.
That's right.
We got a problem. So there were some changes made, and one of them was there was no more sword fishing, long line sword fishing off of Florida in this area that we found out was a nursery, where they were coming in, having the babies, and baby swordfish come out. Guess what? They eat too. So getting into long lining and why it's a problem. If you don't know much about long lining, the important thing to know is it is exactly what it sounds like. A boat runs out a line that's miles long and can have hundreds of hooks on it. The technology has changed. It has improved somewhat. The circle hooks that they use, it's been great for sea turtle survivability. However, it's had the opposite effect on some sharks and sailfish and other stuff that get stuck on there. And it's not helping that. It's actually made it worse for some of the tunas. Longliners particularly target swordfish and tunas because that's where they get the most bang for their buck.
The heaviest fish and most desirable.
But one other thing that's different about long lining and the kind of fishing that you do when you go for swordfish, conventional with hook and line, is that your fishing weeds out the smaller fish. The harvest that you get, the fish that you catch, well, you'll get some small ones undersized or whatever, but the fish that you catch generally are on the larger size, and that type of conventional fishing tends to skew the catch in that direction, whereas long lining is indiscriminate. It catches all size of fish. And so there's a size limit. The smaller ones that are pups, they let them go. And unfortunately, by the time they get them to the boat, when they've been hanging on the hooks, they're already dead or dying and aren't going to survive. Long lining, as you know, or as you might guess, with baits hanging out there for miles, it's also indiscriminate in the species that it catches.
Right.
So of particular concern for this particular area, and I know some people might think we're getting overrun with sailfish, there's going to be an immense number of sailfish bycatch here. Also, white marlin and blue marlin. There's a predicted number of bycatch on those, which none of us want to see. I think that's really, some of the most egregious points that I wanted to make about long lining and how it applies to swordfish here.
Now, also, one thing I did want to mention is when you're talking about when it's being recreational fished, and when we do catch the smaller swordfish, their survivability rate is very high because we catch them right away and we let them go right away. Whereas, as you said, when you're long lining, it's soaking for hours, multiple hours, and you don't know when that fish was caught and how long it's staying on the line, and a lot of times by the time they get these smaller fish, they're dead or close to dead, or they're shark bait at that time.
That's right.
So
the estimated bycatch or discards of undersized swordfish from long line, and I want to say this was either 2 years ago, it was 438 metric tons.
wow.
Metric tons is 2,200 pounds.
Yep.
So if you're talking about average size big fish that are coming in that are 90 plus pounds or even 150 pounds, if we're getting back up to that, that's one thing. But we're talking about the babies. So I'm giving you a weight in metric tons. How many more of those small fish it takes to achieve that number?
Right.
It's a staggering number of
Yep.
swordfish that are being lost from long lining. So to have those long linings out here in the nursery grounds, it's a double whammy on that population. So coming back around to this whole thing and the whole way that this is being done, it's closed, and it's been closed for quite a while. They're not planning on opening it, but there's a loophole sometimes that people can use to get into a fishery that's been closed for the purposes of research, and that's called an exempted fishing permit, or EFP. And that's what this is here. Now, EFPs can be used for very good reasons, and typically they are. So this is another point of contention for me, that when you see something like this that just appears to be so egregious and so obvious that it's a fish and a money grab, it's troublesome, because now the next person that applies for a legitimate EFP, they're going to have to deal with a public opinion that, oh, they're just doing this because they want to kill fish.
Right.
Whereas EFPs do actually provide researchers with a lot of valuable information. In this particular case, the history of this particular EFP is this exact same plan was proposed a year ago, and the South Atlantic Council approved it. And at that time, the principal party in this was Nova University. And there was a commercial fishing group that was attached to it. And this is what made it pretty obvious to many people that this is a money grab, a fish grab. But the deal is that Nova would collect the fish and use the data, and then the commercial fishing company would be able to take those fish and sell them and make their money, along with, if there's bycatch exceptions for the other fish that they catch in there. So there was such a large amount of public pressure to not allow this to happen that Nova backed out. They were already awarded the permit. They just decided, okay, we're not going to use it. We're just not going to use it. So what happened this year, this council meeting, there's a discussion this week in Jekyll Island, Georgia. Nova's out of the picture. They brought in a different group as a principal party. Exact same permit. Exact same commercial group is involved with it. Exact same research goals. But now it has to be revoted on, because once you change the principal party, the last one becomes invalid. So there's a chance for us to be able to get up there and make a change this time and not allow them to approve it. The one thing that I want to wrap up on with this, and then we can come back with any other points you want, is the research goal. What was stated, I was digging up, looking up information on this, and I found an article by EDF, the Environmental Defense Fund, who typically people think of as being an anti-fishing group. That article actually applauded the EFP and said it was a good thing to happen. And the reason they said was it was going to get a lot of valuable research. But the research they were talking about was collecting electronic reporting data on the longline fishery, the size of the fish and the catch rates and that sort of thing. And when I read that, I almost lost my mind. Because for the past almost 10 years, SGF has been working on electronic reporting programs, the iAngler program. And I realized this is information that we can provide to them, ourselves, recreational anglers, without increasing the harvest, without changing any rules, without targeting the smaller fish. As long as we report our catches, the ones we keep and the ones we let go in iAngler, this is not only a good personal logbook, but it's another tool for us to help keep longliners from using this type of research as an excuse to come in and put their long lines in our fishing waters. That's really
right.
All I can say about that. It's an easy way for everybody to get involved. Log your fish. There isn't a fish that's reported that's not important. Some people say, I'm not going to report fish because I don't go fishing or I don't catch as many fish as Danny Barrow or whatever. Every single time you go fishing, every fish you report, it has value. And this is exactly why. There's so many ways we can use that data to help protect our fisheries, protect our rights as anglers. We're doing this stuff on our own. We don't need longliners to come in to provide that information. We can provide it without damaging the fishery and without asking for anything in return.
Right. No, I agree. There's not much I want to add to it other than, that there are going to be some people out there that are watching this that, they're mad at the parties involved, and, we're going to stay professional, leave some names out, but, just provide the information. But it is very important that that we do stay on top of this, and somewhat don't let it happen, because again, it is a nursery, it's a breeding ground. There was a reason why it was closed, and there was enough research done at that time when it was closed. The fact that Nova, that's the only name we're mentioning, but the fact that they backed out of the situation should show, a huge, it's an eye opener.
Right.
The fact that the university that was named part of this the first time around, the fact that they backed out of it and don't want to be a part of it shows that something is there, and there is a party that is involved that is going to benefit financially from this whole deal.
Right. It's interesting that every organization that fights to conserve billfish, that has a stake in the game, IGFA, the Billfish Foundation, they've come out publicly and opposed this. In fact, the industry, ASA, you think, well, they might want to do it because they can sell a long line tackle, and that sort of thing. They came out and opposed it, and they're actually going to be up there providing public comment. I would say when we kind of see how this thing unfolds later this week and see how the vote goes, it might be the end of the story. But if it's not, we might be following up with an actionable item. We might be asking you, hey, call this person or write a letter or email this person and give your opinion on this. Let people know what you think about this EFP. Think about what we talked about today, make your opinion, and then make your voice heard to the people that can do something about it.
All right. Well, thanks. And if you have any questions, comments, whether you agree, disagree, if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us at xgen@gmail.com. xgen@gmail.com. I'm sorry. xgenfishing@gmail.com. xgenfishing@gmail.com. And can we get it put on here, Wayne? All right, great. All right, guys. Thank you.